Morning, everyone. Today's Tuesday, September 25th, 2018. It's a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Let the record reflect Commissioners Sobroff, Bonner, and Goldsmith are present, and we have a quorum.
Okay. On the consent agenda items, we have one speaker on each of the items. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir. We have two on 1A and one on all the others.
Okay. So, Mr. Novick, you can go ahead through all. You can do all of yours. Let's start with A.
Okay, usually I just speak about one of these, but there are so many this week that I decided to speak about all of them. Number 1A is a report on accepting a $2,500 grant from or donation from the Los Angeles Police Foundation for the benefit of LA Police Department in their days of dialogue. So, first of all, we've raised the general question of the conflict of interest with the LA Police Foundation. I've raised repeatedly the fact that the police department already has an extremely large budget and its regular funding from the city, and all of these grants you should reject and advise the grantors to give the money for purposes such as housing, education, job training.
Let's stick to the topic.
That's the topic. The topic is, I think you should reject this donation and urge the LA Police Foundation to give the money for better purposes than funding the LA Police Department in general. Around the days of dialogue, I think that this is an example of the kind of what we call propaganda, and I've told you repeatedly that so-called community-oriented policing is about what they call domestic equivalent of psychological operations in the military, controlling the thinking of the population or the enemy. You wouldn't have to have these kinds of days of dialogue if the police department were in charge with protecting and defending the interests of the 1%, and enforcing a system of white supremacy and colonialism in the city, targeting black and brown people. So if you want to improve the reputation of the police department, you have to change its mission, not engage in days of dialogue that are about just trying to control what people think about it. You have to change the actual practice of the department. So I urge you to reject this proposed donation from the LA Police Foundation and tell them to send the money for better purposes, such as I said, job training, housing, educational assistance, youth counseling.
Go to number B, please. Go ahead.
Okay. 1B, again, is another grant from the Los Angeles Police Foundation. This one is for $15,000 for medical screening, a tent rental, and prizes for the 2018 Los Angeles Police Department Health Fair. So a couple of weeks ago, we had the meeting where you talked about the fact that September is Suicide Prevention Month, and that one of the main causes of death among police is suicide. And I think that's a major health crisis for the LA Police Department and every other police department in the country. And as I explained to you at the time, the reason you're finding such high rates of suicide among police is that people who come into the department with the serious and sincere intention of community service and protecting and serving the population discover they're in a job that has intolerable pressures because they're directed at being a colonial occupying army in communities of color and an internal border guard in more privileged areas, and that contradicts their own desires to actually protect and serve the people. So if you want to improve the health of the line officers and the staff in the police department, again, the thing you need to do is change the mission of the department so that people who want to serve and protect the community are actually able to do so, as opposed to having the assignments that they get, which is to protect and serve the 1% and the interests of people who are exploiting the citizens and residents of Los Angeles, and protecting the bankers and protecting the interests that are gentrifying and displacing people, targeting people based on racial profiling. So I think that you should, again, reject this $15,000 grant from the LA Police Foundation, in addition to the contradictions we've said with Mr. Sobroff's involvement with the foundation, and have them send the money to better purposes such as health care, housing for the homeless, education for young people, and job training, so that people don't have to face the police in that adversarial relationship, and change the police department mission.
Excuse me, can we please have a record reflect Commissioners Johnson and Figueroa Villa are now present?
Go ahead with 1C.
Yeah, 1C again is another grant for an additional $5,000 from the Los Angeles Police Foundation. So we're looking at a total this week of somewhere north of $37,000 or more. I didn't total it up. But once again, I've challenged the commission week after week to tally up the total of money that you're getting from the LA Police Foundation, from the Dodgers, from other sources, and release to the public an auditing of how much money that is on top of the enormous budget that the LAPD already gets, and to urge all those
Stay
foundations.
on topic. The
This
Police
is the
Foundation
topic.
does have audited statements. Stay on topic. You're talking about one donation.
Yes, I'm
of
saying
one
this
conversion
donation
kit.
as well.
Stay
You
on
need
topic.
to. That's the topic. You need to tally up the amount of money you're getting in these donations. That's the topic.
No, that's not the
I want you to add in this money to the total of money received week after week, tens of thousands of dollars, and inform the public at large about how much money the LAPD is
Let's
getting.
go to number D now.
No, I have a minute on
Don't
one
have a
C, and
minute because you're done
yes,
with
this
C because
particular
you were
one,
off topic twice.
This
So let's
particular
go to
one
D.
is relative to a conversion kit. I want to know what a conversion kit is and what you're converting. Are you
You're on
converting
number D
weapons?
now?
This is 1C, and I have
This is final warning, or I'm going to ask you to leave the room.
unbelievable.
Go to
Okay,
D.
1D. 1D is an additional donation from the Los Angeles Police Foundation for another $4,672, nearly $5,000. This is relative to the administrative cost of the Los Angeles Police Concert Band. I don't think that the Los Angeles Police need to have a concert band, and I don't think you need to accept money from the LA Police Foundation for the benefit of the concert band, because the concert band is another example of propaganda. You're trying to disguise the fact that the police are a paramilitary organization as if they're people entertaining the citizens of the city of Los Angeles and the residents here. They're not. So I think that you should reject this money from Los Angeles Police Foundation and add the $4,672 to a tally of how much money the police department is getting week after week from the foundation, and let the citizens of the city and residents of the city of Los Angeles know how much money that is, and urge the Los Angeles Police Foundation to put the money to better purposes, such as housing, job training, healthcare, psychological services, youth services, and other ways that we can avoid the kind of confrontational relationship that the Los Angeles Police Department has with the people of this city. And I'll just sit here silently for another 27 seconds because I don't think you need to shut me up for talking about these issues. I'm not screaming, I'm not shouting, I'm not preventing you from doing your business, but I'm trying to urge you to do your jobs and to take your responsibility and to reject this money because it can be better used for better purposes, and you need to inform the people of this city how much money they're getting and why it's being misspent.
Okay, let's go to number 1E, please.
Yeah, department consent agendas. Now, all of your items are consent agenda because it's always, I've never seen ever even a minority report on anything. But this one is another $8,000. This one is coming from the Los Angeles Dodgers. So again, I think you should urge the Dodgers, if they want to spend their money, to spend their money on better purposes than adding another $8,000 to the police cadet program. We've had previous discussions about what's happening with the cadet program. Just this past week, there was an officer in another jurisdiction who was convicted of, or charged with
Stay
lewd
on
behavior.
topic, please.
This is the topic. I'm
No,
talking
it's
about
not the
police.
topic. Last warning.
Police cadet programs are misused repeatedly in this department and elsewhere around the country. There was an officer charged with lewd behavior for being in a car with an underage explorer. This is a different department,
Okay,
but it
so let's
raises the
get the
question.
other, that's the
So
end
I think
of
you should
this
reject.
of yours. Let's go to, let's
We
move to
have-
approve 1B, 1C, 1D, and 1E, please. Do you have a second? All in favor? Aye. Let's go back to 1A. We have one more speaker.
We have Adam Smith.
Mr. Smith.
So yeah, this donation's for $2,500. I think the total for the week, Michael, is 27 and change, 27 grand. Which we're talking about here. Usually, if we don't make comments about it, you all vote on these without any type of discussion. So You know, you can throw around your last warnings and stuff, but at least we're talking about it, Mr. Sobroff. I think it's, you know, it's really problematic that we don't talk about these, that you guys don't discuss these at all. You know, you look at totals from 2016, 2015, it's like $3 million that, is anybody from the Police Foundation actually come to these meetings, or they're just like, no, it's fine, just throw money that's going to get approved, nobody's going to discuss it, whether it's surveillance equipment or money for a party or like this, community outreach to the Los Angeles Police Department. They don't need money for community relations. You need to stop leading all U.S. police departments in the killing of your residents. And $2,500 for PR isn't going to help solve that problem.
Okay.
Your condescension is beautiful today, Mr. Sobroff. Really appreciate it.
Do we have a motion for approval of 1A? Second? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Let's move to items number 2. Do we have any commission questions on A, B, C, D, E, F, or G? I don't have any. Do we have any public comments on any of the items in item 2?
We have Mr. Herman on 2A, B, C, and D.
Okay.
And then we have 2 cards on F and no cards on E or G.
Okay, so let's move approval of E and G. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. So, Mr. Herman, why don't you do A, B, C, and D? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then who do you have on F?
On F, we have Mr. Novick and Adam Smith.
Okay. Mr. Herman.
Wow. Crime gun intelligence. Do we need more guns that have intelligence? Because apparently LAPD is by far off that discussion due to the trigger-happy officers who unsuccessfully take out their arms, meaning their guns, not the physical body part of autonomy, but I'm talking about real guns like the one in my hand, and they point them accidentally at somebody, just like this. And then some officer in National Crime Gun Intelligence says, shoot the motherfucker
Mr.
now.
President, the speaker's off topic. This is about
I'm dealing
a
with gun
grant.
intelligence.
Last warning.
I'm intensifying my point, Mr. T-Fank. Mr. T-Fank, you're not even a fucking judge to be judging the
Mr.
public.
President, the
So let's
speaker's
go
off
here-
topic.
Yeah, he's done with this
Well, let
one.
me move
Well,
on
let's
to
go
number
to
2
2B.
then, B. 2B. Fucking report dated for September 19, 2018, relative to fucking home, what, garaging? Who fucking cares about garaging? Recommendations for fucking board action. Mr. T-Fank, I'm on fucking topic. Approve the
President,
fucking
speaker's being
department's
repetitive. He's not
report
speaking
on
to the item.
BPC number
Last warning.
180319, motherfuckers. Item 2C, relative to fucking professional services. What
Well,
is
let's
that?
reset the clock. He's
Dr.
on C
J.
now.
David Wheat, a veterinary service. Am I on topic or what? I'm reading it right off your fucking agenda, Mr. Sobroff. Every time the public speaks on agendized items, you censor them. You violate the Brown Act and our civil rights. Stop fucking with white niggers like me too. All right?
Mr. President, the speaker's off
Off
topic.
topic.
And my
again.
last item was D. That's right. You hear that? The public's telling you.
Go ahead.
He's not really off topic. City attorney, you have to weigh in from here on.
No, we're okay. We got it. Thanks. Thanks. I got it. Thank you, sir.
So, once again, all these rules, like today at council, Rule 19, Motion 55, Motion 19, what the fuck is going on with the
Off topic,
department's
Mr.
report
President.
for
Okay,
relative
that's it. Thank you,
professional
sir.
services selected
I'll move items 2A,
Oh,
B,
let me
C,
tell
and
you,
D.
it's to compromise artists like myself who come here.
You're now disrupting
to-
the meeting, so
How am I
that's your last
disrupting the
warning.
meeting? I'm reading item 2D. Oh, man, what a racist.
The city attorney doesn't,
It's okay, I got it.
okay, you don't get to say what's offensive or not. You guys have to be cool with that.
You can come up during public, you can come up during public comments, okay. Okay, so let's,
I'm asking you.
A,
You
B,
don't get to say what's offensive.
2A, B, C, D, and E. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
The attorney has to weigh in.
Okay, thanks. What do we have on, you have two on?
2F, we have Mr. Novick and Adam Smith.
Mr. Novick and Mr. Smith on 2F.
To the supplemental police account, secondary quarterly report. Usually, there's much more detail in that report. You haven't put out any of the details here publicly that I can see. But the supplemental police account, my understanding is money that's coming in from asset forfeiture and seizures. Is that right? So again, you need to tell the public more widely how much money that is on top of the general budget that the police department receives from the city general fund, and what that money is being spent on, where it's coming from, how much of it is from civil forfeitures that have nothing to do with criminal behavior, but are just suspicion, and the police department confiscates cars and property and houses in some cases with an enormous flow of funds on top of the general city budget. So I think that that's unconscionable, and that you should put an end to that procedure, and that you should audit how much money has been accumulated into the coffers of the LA Police Department over many, many years through these programs of asset forfeiture and seizures, and return some of those properties to the people they were seized from. And so you should not accept this report, but reject the report and direct the police department to stop carrying out these seizures of people's homes, cars, and other possessions, and stop using that additional funding for the purposes of inflicting further pain on the people of this city. And if you change the mission of the police department, you wouldn't have these kinds of forfeitures going on.
Mr. President, if I may, on this item, the attachment was not linked to the online agenda. I would recommend we continue the item till next week so there can be full disclosure of the attachment that was not included with the document.
Is that F?
Yes, it is.
Talking about F?
The item that Mr. Novak was speaking to. You can let the speaker
You can
speak
speak,
to it,
Smith,
but I
you
would
can
just
speak to it
suggest
also.
the
No, I'm
agenda.
laughing because you don't even know what the fuck we're talking about.
Okay, so you're done speaking then?
No, I'm not done speaking.
So go ahead.
Thanks. Thanks for bringing that up. That's all I was going to bring up is that.
Thank you.
I have 2 minutes, sir. But Chief Moore, as someone that I know is very into the data and statistics, and I do feel like there could be more of an accounting of where this money comes from, because the attachments that are generally attached to this report every quarter are very unspecific. You know, it's just like a list of 2 cars, 400, you know, it gives a list of how much cash was supposedly seized, but like, you know, with the history of this department, how is the public supposed to actually believe, just trust that, that these, you know, the seizures are legal, what the money's being used for. I know that I imagine that the point of this account is to show how much money is accumulated throughout the year, but with no real accounting as specifically as to what kind of situations the money and the cars and the property is being seized from, and what kind of programs the LAPD is using these funds for. I just think there could be a much better accounting of this. Thanks.
Okay, so we will hold item number 2F.
It will continue to next week,
Continue
sir.
to next week. Okay, let's go to item number 3. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Commissioners, and let me first begin my remarks relative to significant incidents. We enjoyed, I appreciate Mr. Tiefenk organizing a small reception prior to this starting this morning to recognize the service and accomplishments of Vice President Commissioner Johnson and his departure. And on behalf of the department, I just want to echo my remarks earlier in thanking him for his commitment to reform, to the progress that has been made in these past 3 years relating to the use of force policy, our de-escalation, transparency, accountability. His commitment was demonstrated to me, and I've seen, Matt, your work with our people, your investment in being in station houses and in black and whites and in the field to understand ground truth of what actually occurs in an organization of this size and complexity, demonstrated that your ideas of what we could and can be were not just some notion. You thought hard and long and found ways using your intellect and your background and experience for us to carve a path forward that I believe continues to position this department as a leader in law enforcement, not only in this region, the state, but across the country. Your commitment also to the people of Los Angeles, that we will be accountable to them in building trust by our actions and our deeds, not just our intentions, I think has been a hallmark of your tenure here, and you will be missed. And while I look forward to the leadership of Commissioner Bonner and the Commissioner-elect or nominated Ms. Decker, know that your absence will be felt. And we do appreciate every dedication and long hours and sweat and toil that you engaged in to improve us as an organization. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving into other significant matters, I want to talk briefly that last night or yesterday afternoon, the department made an arrest, a significant arrest of a Raymond Escobar, who we will be having a 3 o'clock joint press conference today involving Santa Monica Police Department and our Robbery Homicide Division personnel. This stemmed from a report I had last week, provided this commission relative to a double homicide involving two individuals who are experiencing homelessness, as well as an attack on a third individual who is still in very critical condition today. Our resulting investigation involved robbery homicide assignment and a formulation of a 24/7 task force operation to identify this individual who's responsible for this just horrific attacks, unprovoked. We learned of a similar attack that occurred a few days later in Santa Monica and dispatched our robbery homicide personnel. Together they joined investigative resources and worked through the weekend. Those efforts included outreach within the homeless communities throughout this region because of the attack and the manner of information we had regarding Santa Monica's crimes. We believe that this individual was potentially mobile and was attacking homeless individuals, not just here in the downtown area or Santa Monica, but potentially in the region about us. So outreach was done within the homeless communities utilizing our HOPE teams as well as our RESET and our senior leads. Internal communications with imagery regarding the captures of this suspect's photograph from our earlier crimes, as well as an outreach to the media. I believe all that helped as yesterday another attack, another unprovoked, brutal assault of an individual experiencing homelessness occurred late, about 7 o'clock in the morning in Santa Monica, and the observation of a very observant Santa Monica Police Department uniform officer resulted in the detention of a possible suspect to that attack. We immediately dispatched our resources there, and our investigative efforts have led us to believe that that individual, Mr. Raymond Escobar, is responsible for our attack as well, and potentially other crimes. This matter is still very much in its infancy as far as the investigative efforts. Today we'll be working with the District Attorney's Office seeking filing formal charges against Mr. Escobar, and the joint responsibilities of this investigation will continue. And this afternoon at 3 o'clock, we will have more to say in greater detail regarding what we know at this point. additional efforts I want to talk about on a more pleasant note is in our engagement internally with members of this organization. I and a couple of senior members of my staff traveled to the Los Angeles Police Protective League delegate meeting this past weekend and spent a few days with them. I spent the morning on Saturday talking with the delegates and hearing from them their concerns and observations relative to the department's operations. I want to report a great deal of support from our league directors as well as the delegates overall in the direction we're going, and encouragement that while we have many challenges in front of us, I found the exchange to be very encouraging as chief of their positive spirit and their can-do attitude of going out and how do we improve safety in Los Angeles. Last night we met as a community engagement effort with members from Valley Bureau and West Valley specifically for the Reseda Islamic Center. A group of about 150 men and women from the Islamic Center, and actually centers from around the San Fernando Valley and surrounding communities, to talk about our engagement efforts for us within the Muslim community to ensure that our officers are properly trained and aware and engaging in effective problem solving and in efforts to improve community safety within the Islamic community and in the overall community of Los Angeles. So that engagement was I found productive, and enjoyed some food afterwards. It's a great opportunity just to continue to build and deepen bonds with an important member of our community, that being the Muslim community. Lastly, I would like to move into our crime and personnel staffing. Relative to crime, we continue to see a reduction in homicides despite the ugliness of this attack, of this double homicide. At the end of this, the 22nd of September, today we have 180 homicides versus 203 for the same period last year. That's a 10% reduction, and it's over 13% reduction for a 2-year period. We have an overall violent crime reduction of 2.4%, and we're down in every violent crime category. Our property crime, we have just over a 2% reduction, and our challenge in this area is thefts. And we just continue to ask the public to lock it, hide it, keep it, as an effort of deterring individuals who are opportunists many times and steal items from stores and locations where people are frequenting and enjoying a nice afternoon. And so that would help us as our efforts is to continue to lower crime. Overall, Part 1 crime in Los Angeles, I'm happy to report, is still down over 2%, 2.3%. And looking at a little bit of sub-numbers within that, our gang crime is at 11.6% of a reduction. So the primary area in which we're seeing a reduction in homicides specifically has been our gang-related homicides. And I'll continue to echo that I believe the efforts of and the success there has not been the policing, as has been mentioned many times about the department's role in public safety. It is a shared responsibility, and I want to tip my hat to our gang reduction youth development resources out of the mayor's office for both prevention and intervention services. I believe their work in building communities is helping us tremendously in stopping gang violence. Far too many gang shootings still occur, but we're in a positive area here as far as reduction, and I'm thankful for that. Regarding officer-involved shootings, which I report on each week, there were no officer-involved shootings this past week. That leaves us today with 24 total officer-involved shootings this year versus 36 last year. That's a 33% reduction. And we have had 10 of those 24 shootings this year were fatal. Last year, that number was 13, and that is a 23% reduction. Our overall public contacts have increased nearly 13%. We had more than 1.2 million calls for service and vehicle PED and pedestrian stops year to date, of which I found astonishing when you think of the sheer number of public contacts between our men and women and members of the community. Looking at our traffic collisions, we are basically flat this year as far as total traffic collisions at just under 40,000 traffic collisions. And our total serious injuries and deaths are down 3%, but we still have 980 individuals this year who've suffered a serious injury, with 162 of those losing their life as a result of a traffic collision. The biggest area of concern I have in this is our bicyclists involved, because while we've seen motor vehicle versus pedestrian serious deaths and injuries reduced, as we have with hit and runs, the bicyclists involved continue to be in the plus. We've had 12 individuals who've lost their life as a result of a bicyclist-involved injury. Last year, that number was 11. And while overall bicyclist-involved injury collisions are down more than 10%, the seriousness of those that do occur is a continued matter of concern for us. Lastly, in regards to sworn personnel, we have 10,009 sworn personnel on payroll, 2,959 civilians, and 385 reserve officers, of which we have 256 specialist reserves or volunteers, and our cadet strength stands at 1428. And that concludes my remarks.
Commissioner, questions, comments, the chief? Commissioner?
Thank you, Chief. As always, thoughtful and thorough presentation. I did want to respond to your first point about acknowledging that today is Commissioner Johnson's last meeting, and just say, for the record, that you have led us through an incredibly tumultuous time in history, and you seized the moment to make tremendous lasting change, and we are all better off as a result. What everybody knows is the incredible policy changes that you've made. It's been well documented, thanks to our friends in the media and elsewhere. But what people may not know is just how incredibly hard you work and how fiercely devoted you are to the people of this city. And personally, I'm so grateful to you for everything you've taught me and all the ways you've supported me. And I can say with confidence that you will go down in history as one of the great leaders of this city.
Thanks. We had a reception for Commissioner Johnson before with comments from the mayor's office and a number of the commissioners. And I'm not going to go over those again, except to say that changes that Matt began or completed were not easy to make, and everyone in this city is better off because of them. Let's go on to any comments on the chief's report, public comments.
We have 2 public comment cards. We have Mr. Novick and the Red Chief Hunt.
Mr. Novick?
Yeah, I appreciate the frankness that Chief Moore made in his remarks when he said that the reduction in gang violence and shootings is not due to policing, but due to efforts from gang intervention social workers from the mayor's office. I think that the general reduction in gang violence and the reduction in crime would behoove us to think about reducing the size of the police force and putting the money that's used for policing into social services, job training, housing, and psychological services, youth services. So I think that you should think about strategically planning further reductions in the size of the police department. I also want to comment on the remarks regarding Commissioner Johnson's service. Again, I appreciate the amount of work he's put in, and it saddens me that you deal with that just in terms of kind of a mutual admiration society and not look at the gap between how much work it took to make relatively minor reforms and the vast amount of work that needs to be done to change the nature of policing in this city. And instead of slapping each other on the back about the relatively small incremental changes that have been made in the face of the demands of people in the city for serious change in the nature of policing, from being an occupying army engaged in a kind of counterinsurgency, community consciousness control, to a department that, if it exists at all, should have a different relationship. So I think that the measure should be not what has been accomplished, but what needs to be accomplished. And in that regard, I think the commission as a whole has fallen far short of where it should be, and the chief as well.
The Red Chief on for the record.
Morning, Michael.
Good morning. Matt, when I first met you, you were so compassionate about this job. And I remember one time you wanted to run down and just beat somebody up and things like that because your compassion for the job. It's very few people that have that great amount of compassion. didn't like everything and didn't like all the decisions made, but I think, I gave you a fair chance and things like that. I think you learned a lot from here, and I think you learned a lot from not only my legal ease, but from who I am as an individual. And here's what I want to say to you guys, and all of you guys that sit up there on this board, and not only for Matt Johnson. Either you guys get to officiate or you guys get to listen. It's best to become a good listener, then you can make great decisions. A person that doesn't listen and a person that's always talking can't make good decisions. If you listen to the public, then you can understand what they want and what the needs are. And on that note, Matt, congratulations that you're moving on and things like that. Thank God for the Obama administration, which you have a part of the legacy of and things like that. You've made history. Hopefully that your career go on and be successful as an individual as you are. I'm not a hater. I'm a congratulator. Good luck into all your endeavors and stuff like that. And please remember this, that all of you guys up there, if you're up there, just listen. Become great listeners, man. That's what a commissioner is. A commissioner listens. And don't interrupt the meeting. That's what officiation about. And as a commissioner, as a board or whatever, you just have to listen. Sometimes you have to hear shit that you don't want to hear, but you don't get to officiate. City attorney, please practice that. Matt, good luck, and good luck to all of you guys.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, we're going to public comment now.
We have 9 comment cards.
Okay.
We have Jeff Delshad, Mr. Novick, Bill Watkins, and Claudia Oliveira.
Morning, sir.
I had kind of like a budgetary question. I was just wondering if you would. Is that not coming? No. I was just wondering if you might be able to confirm or deny relating to the budget of the department, if there's any money that is spent regarding programs of nature of aliens, not in the sense of aliens from other countries, but aliens as in like aliens. Yeah, that's my question. Yeah, if anyone would be able to confirm or deny that there's $1 from, or more than $1 from the budget that's related to extraterrestrials.
Yeah, sir. If you'll talk with Lieutenant Raffish, give us your contact information, we'll send you a formal response.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Mr. Novick.
Oh, no. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, sir. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Hi, I'm Claudia Oliveira. I'm the Historic Core Resident Director for the Downtown Los Angeles Neighborhood Council. I'm speaking in my private capacity. I was here in the meeting of June. Unfortunately, right after an accident, my friend got hit unprovokedly in the face and is now having reconstructive surgery. I came here to advocate for new technology so that we could utilize the officers that we do have better and be able to address more underlying issues that turn into big issues. I'm here to say today, I don't know what's been done with that, but I have seen an increased presence in the Historic Corps, Foot Patrol, and Mounted Guard, and it's greatly appreciated because the last 2 times when a 3-month baby was spit on, and just recently a person tried to chase me down as I'm trying to move furniture with a baseball bat, both times I was able to flag down officers that were nearby. So I greatly appreciate that. And there's always 2 sides of the story. We do not feel safe just yet. I think the services are great. I think it has to be a combination of both. But we cannot deny that there's a lot of people who do not want services. And for that reason, we do need to have you guys around. And if I can advocate for perhaps maybe more police on the 1st of the month through the 7th is generally when we see things go south. So, and I can only speak for the Historic Corps because that's the part where I have 3 jobs at and reside. So thank you very much for all your efforts.
Thanks for taking the time to come. Mr. Novick?
I want to make note of the fact that you concluded all your general business within 45 minutes today. And I'm sure you're patting yourselves on the back for that, but you got to a point where there were people still coming in, trying to put in cards for public comment, and you already begun the public comment. So I think that reflects the general attitude that you have, that public comment on your business items is a distraction and a irritant, as opposed to a contribution to your process. And I think that that's unconscionable. And I think in particular, Mr. Soboroff, today, your behavior with me when I was trying to make public comments about each of the so-called consent agenda items, when everything on your agenda is a consent agenda, reflects the fact that the city is trying to prevent and eliminate public comment through their city council procedure rules changes that they're seeking, in which people can be thrown out of meetings. I think you're trying to establish a paper trail, let's say, on every single person who comes here to these meetings, because you tried to cut me off 5 times on public comment about your consent agenda items, claiming I was off topic. And I think that reflects your intention to prevent people from commenting publicly about anything at these meetings, so that you can force me out and everybody else out. You've arranged for criminal charges against Melina Abdullah. So I think that you really need to rethink your purpose here. And if you're not prepared to accept public comment, you should just resign from the commission and get some people on there who are willing to listen to the public. I also want to point out that Sister Jasmine Abdullah is here, somebody you've repeatedly chased out, but she's receiving an award from the YWCA of Pasadena as a human rights leader, and I think you should recognize that those people have a vital contribution to make to your process. You better listen to us, and if you don't, you're going to have trouble.
Next speaker, please. Morning.
Good morning. I didn't know about Matt. Thanks for everything. I hope you got some flowers. That sounds like a bribe or something weird, but on March 11th, 2016, I was on my Twitter account and I saw a report from Dave Lopez, one of our guys here who reports on CBS and KCAL, about the de-escalation policy that had happened that week. I had written the police commission, as I do sometimes, by email on March 7th. I wrote a poem called The Old Argument. The old argument is he had a gun, so I had to shoot him. And I looked at it for a long time religiously, that thou shalt not kill, 6th commandment, just don't do it, it's a sin. Finally, I was talking with an officer one day, a lead officer from Hollenbeck, Austin Fernald, and we had a good debate. He was on the lethal side, I was on the non-lethal side. It was a positive debate, though. I got off the phone, I wrote the poem. The shooter's heart doesn't have to stop beating for them to no longer be a threat. It finally got to me scientifically. All the things we can do to make that shooter, to deal with the shooter without ending a life, which is a sin by my religion, and it's the wrong way to go. And then how many legal hassles does it create, and budget problems and hassles and protests? So I'm really proud of Matt for being a part of that. And I thank the mayor. I gave the flowers to the mayor. I cried myself to sleep that night on March 11th. I cried for 3 hours straight. I got sober and I began to value human life, my own first. I stopped killing myself. But then I looked around, and I wish everyone would reconsider alcohol as a drink. It's a dangerous substance, and drugs as well. And I hope you all get to walk today. Just everybody walk, find a place in nature, and you will start to see with me, next step, let's get rid of those helicopters someday. And let's have a budget so we don't need gang units. We need a budget. That's not for you. That's for city council and the mayor. We need a better budget here. We need more money in here to do good. Security, not killing. I love you guys. Thank you.
The next 4 speakers, Lisa Hines, Sheila Brem, John Avalos, and Adam Smith.
Ms. Hines?
Slowly but surely, you guys are leaving. You know, every time I come in this building, it's just like something is ripped out of me. But today, it's like something was lifted up off of me. And Matt, I'm saying that because you're leaving. Because you were put here to help the people, the community, the Angelinos. People getting up here talking about you did this and you did that. You did some things, but not the right things by the Angelinos, by the communities. You know in your heart, you know, because I have spoken with you one-on-one. You know what that decision was not right by my daughter. The abrasions she had across her forehead were fresh. How did that happen? I just pray and hope that each one of you up there that doesn't do the right thing are replaced with somebody that's going to do what's needed to be done. And that is not have the county coroners in their pockets, not side with the police when they know they're dead wrong. I mean, just get up there and do what's right. Get up there and do what's right. I'm tired of coming in here, raising my voice. I'm tired of crying because it don't do no good. You still make the same old decisions, not just with my daughter, with everyone before my daughter and everyone that came after my daughter. Everything the police did was always in policy. They were never wrong. Even with evidence stacked this high against them, they were always in policy. From Jackie Lacey to the coroner's office to the police department. But how can we win when we are up against the largest gang there is? Notorious gang. We don't have a chance. Oh, but we do. If we stay together. If we stay together and keep coming, keep showing up, somebody's going to give up and say, we can't keep doing this. And I hope before everybody on this panel leave, it be one of you guys, so you guys can have a clear conscience.
Thank you.
I'm not done. I'm not done. See, that's what I'm talking about. You're so eager to push us out the way, just like Novak said, that you're trying to get the comments, public comments out the way. It's sad. People come in here to talk to you guys and give you guys their concerns and tell you how they're feeling, how you make them feel, and you don't even want to listen. Michael Moore, from what I see, you're on the right track. And I hope it continues that way. For the people. For the people. Because we put you guys in office. We put you guys in place. I have to come here and look at you guys who said the police was in policy by killing my baby. She had fractured ribs, but she hung herself. How did she end up with fractured ribs and abrasions across her forehead where her hair was freshly pulled? I have to come here and just see people get disrespected when you guys done killed their babies, our babies. We're not the bad guys. We are not the bad guys. That's why we come here, to seek help from you, but we don't get that. I'm angry. My sister is angry. She helped raise my daughter. So yeah, our emotions take over. our flesh take over. It's been many a days I done came in here and I just wanted to. But I couldn't do it because I have to keep this fight going. I have to stay in the struggle for my baby's life that was taken from her and me. And we're not going to forget her son. He was 13 at the time she was killed. So I just say to you guys, find it in your hearts to start doing the right thing by everybody, not just by the police, standing with them. Think about the communities first. Think about us. Because if it was your child had killed, we'll be hanging right now. We'd be in jail. We would be. Officer Bratton, where is she? That always hits home with you, Matt Johnson, because every time I mention her name, you close your eyes and tilt your head down. Officer Bratton, she was the one. She was the one. I know. And that officer, when she had her interview, she told the news reporter, I feel she should be fired too. She was just as much involved as I was. What did that mean? Right. Involved in what? And why did she really get fired? Why did she really get fired? And why was the fact that she was fired hidden from me? Why didn't I find that out for almost 2 years later? I'm going to leave that one with y'all.
Say her name. Waukesha Wilson. Say her name. Waukesha Wilson. Say her name. Waukesha Wilson.
The next speakers, please. Sheila Brim, John Avalos, Adam Smith, Paula Miner.
The first thing I do when I'm sitting down is I serve all of you. And so far, it was like you were saying, oh, Lord, here we go again, Waukesha Wilson. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Waukesha Wilson, again, forever. I'm Sheila Brim. Waukesha was my niece. Actually, you can say daughter, because I raised her. My husband, she lived with me and my husband, our 4 children in Carson. So that's why it has a very, very deep impact on me. And not only that you guys killed her March 27, 2016, on my birthday. So, you can't imagine what I'm going through, the grief that I have, because she was killed on my birthday. You have the ability to help us. You guys know what happened. You guys know about the 22 footage that's missing from the videotape. You guys know all of that. And I'm going to be here from now on. Expect to see me. Expect for me to speak on Waukesha. And yeah, why are you guys hiding the video from the family, the public? What did the jailer do? Is the 22 minutes missing because she was killing Waukesha at that time? Yes. Is that it? Is that the answer? and make it look like she did suicide. But let me tell you, I think it was a football player. He hung himself in jail because he got life. He couldn't take it. He left a note. Did Sandra Bland leave a note? Did Waukesha Wilson leave a note? Did John Horton leave a note? Did the girl in Career Gaines leave a note? But it's coincident that they all hung themselves. All of them. But this one guy that left a note. I think that's what I would do if I was contemplating suicide, leave a note for my family. And you think you know me, but all you know all you really know is a grieving aunt and mother, deeply hurt, deeply disgusted. The lies, the cover-up. It's a massive cover-up, and it's called conspiracy. And my God, let him have mercy on every last one of you that were involved in covering this story up about Waukesha's death, cooking up this lie that she hung herself, and we know in darn well she didn't, because she had a very good conversation with her mother, Lisa, on the phone. And then after that, you looking surprised. Yeah, this is the story. You never heard it before, I assume. Dale, it's probably all new to you. But these are the facts right here. It's a cover-up. Right. They signed off on in policy. How can you come to a conclusion that this young lady, 36 years old, hung herself, and you don't have all the movie, the film? 22 minutes are missing. How can you come to that conclusion, Matt Johnson? How? Somehow, how? You with your head down, Richard T. Fink, how? Are you listening? The man just said, listen. If you listen, your eyes are pointed at, looking at that person in the eyes. Face me in my eyes, okay? Because Waukesha is here. Waukesha is here. Okay? Let's get that understood. She's here. And she will always be here. And I know guys not going to do anything, but it's going to come a time in the day, because we are demanding every time we come the release of that videotape. We are demanding. We are going to protest. We're going to demand. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. You're going to know it firsthand what we're going to do. Demand that video tape from you guys. Whoever got locked in the safe box or stored somewhere, or somebody, holding it for an insurance policy, And I don't know anything about you, Michael Moore, but I do know one thing, that when you was on TV, you said something about throwing stuff. I appreciate that. Whatever you was getting at, I appreciate that. You forgot about it, but I did. And another thing I want to address. The last time I was here, you guys belittled the family so bad. That's what you think of the families. That's what you think of the ones that were killed. You know what you did? You had those, one was a lady looking like a man. A man had a dress on, standing up here, calling us every family have a knucklehead. And all of you have maggots in your body.
Next speaker.
John Avalos, followed by Adam Smith and Paula Miner.
Mr. Avalos.
Hi, everybody. Hi. My name is John Avalos.
Don't disrupt the meeting. That's your last warning. That's your last warning. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Looks like everybody left, and we're left here in the little corner.
Yeah.
But that's how it's set up. If you want, you can let all these office people know, we need you here at a certain time and fill up the space. Right. You can do that right away. And then they leave right at the perfect time. Some of them come and show off, sit down right here. They show off a little bit, they make a little talk, and they leave. I now have close to 2,000 people on my Facebook. And I know that if I die, only 5 of them will go to my funeral. I know that. But for now, I am letting them know that this right here, I call it a farce. A farce. It's just there to try to look like everything is cool. But why do we have to come to LA Police Department meetings? That's what these are. These are your meetings. And it's okay. You're going to do a beautiful job. But if this is going to be a police department meeting where we have to come and see all this money that's being donated, it looks like, oh, the world just loves the police. And Michael is here always talking about all this money because 55% of our budget goes to the police, the government budget. Yet, something's not right. It's not balanced. So my Facebook people are hearing me say, where are the college professors? They need to come. The college professors need to come and see what's going on here.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
And don't forget to
next speaker, please.
Move this to the community. Your
Mr.
meetings
Smith?
need to be at the community, and you're always running to the west side. Last week you ran off to the west side,
Mr.
so
Smith.
you won't be yelled at by us. Isn't that what happened last week? Yeah, and we had to
Smith.
go chase
Sir,
you.
your time's up. Thank you, sir. Mr. Smith.
A few people have brought up how it's apparent that, you, especially Soboroff, being the president of this commission, are combative against the public that come here to speak. And not even speaking about how ridiculous it is that Dr. Abdullah is being charged with 8 counts of whatever the fuck for coming in here and speaking her mind. But just before, when the woman from the Historic Corps came and gave her comment, and you said, thank you for making the time, it just makes it so apparent that the only people that you appreciate from the community coming in here are the ones that are going to come in here and praise the police and say we need more police. And if, as a civilian oversight commission, if the only people that you give a shit what they have to say are the people that have the same exact views as you, yeah, an oversight commission. Mr. Johnson, I do hope, you've learned something in the last few years. I hope that you don't forget the name of Waukesha Wilson and Eric Rivera and Jesse Romero and Christian Escobedo and Omar Gonzalez and Riddell Jones and Ezel Ford and Kenny Watkins and all these names. I hope they live with you for the rest of your life. because these families have to live with the pain that was caused by this police department and that continues to be caused by this commission. So I welcome your stepping down, and I also welcome the stepping down of anyone else on this board that doesn't represent the communities most impacted by the LAPD, which is all of you. So, yeah, you're all welcome to resign as well.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Paula Miner, and we do have 2 additional cards, sir. We have Melina Abdullah and Jasmine Abdullah.
They were late cards?
Yes, sir.
But we'll take them.
I stand with the people who have spoken before me, Sheila Hines, Lisa Hines, and Adam Smith. Matt Johnson, when you came, we had high expectations. And then when you led the development of the escalation policy, at least the de-escalation policy document, which was hundreds of pages when it was presented to us, we thought maybe you were going to be the leader. That would make some substantive change. You've been here through all of the cases. You've been here through one of the most murderous times of LAPD in 2016, when most of the names that people are calling, most of those murders occurred during 2016. And then during 2017 is when most of them came before you for policy determination. And in all cases, all the murders were in policy. All those names should reverberate and stay with you. Our expectations of you were not met. And I, too, appreciate the fact that you are leaving, because I think you understand that there are certain things that just can't be changed. As long as this commission continues to see itself as not representing the people, as being, as some people say, just an additional police department meeting, as everything is rubber stamped, as everything is approved, it will be very difficult for this body to make the kind of change that needs to be changed.
Thank you.
Melina Abdullah.
The 2 late speakers.
So I want to thank some of my students for coming out. They came out also to the public meeting. I do teach classes on civic engagement. That's what this is. Unfortunately, you all don't see it that way. You all act as if when we come here, we're doing something other than our civic duty. And I think that that's a huge problem, especially for you, Steve Soboroff, because what they observed you do during the public meeting is lie to them and tell them that only 15% of the budget goes to LAPD.
It's 18%.
Let me finish, because this is
I'll
my
give you
time.
more time, but it's 18%.
It's my time.
Yeah, but
so
it's
don't
18%.
interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. No, it's not.
Yeah,
because
it is.
we pulled it up in class, did we not? And it's 53% of the city's general fund, according to the mayor's own website. So they observed you lying then, and they just observed you lying now. So that's something that needs to be said. Matt Johnson, as we talk about your legacy, we had hopes for you. When you first came in, we told you you had a decision to make, whether you were going to be on the side of the people or whether you were going to be on the side of the police. And you chose that side, side of the police. You chose to betray your ancestors. You chose to betray the people of the city, and you chose to betray black people in particular. You treated us as if we were your adversaries. Dale Bonner, as a new person, I hope that you don't lift up that same legacy. I hope you don't carry that legacy forward. Matt Johnson has continuously run from the community. He refused to meet with community groups. He has lied consistently and ongoingly, and he's led the criminalization of people who are here to authentically represent the community. More arrests have come out of LA Police Commission while Matt Johnson was sitting on it than any other time. I hope that's not the legacy that you carry. We understand that you all seem to think that you're beholden just to the mayor because he appointed you,
Okay,
but
thank
that's
you.
not what the police
Next
commission.
speaker, please.
You interrupted
You can leave
me.
the room now.
That's
You've
not what the
disrupted one more
police commission
time.
is supposed
She
to
can
do.
leave.
The police commission,
don't
read
know
the
her name,
charge, is supposed to represent the people.
time
You're
is up.
supposed to be
Thank you.
a civilian oversight body, not a body that arrests, criminalizes, and
your
shuts
time
down
is up.
conversation.
Next speaker.
Stop interrupting.
Do you want to let the
interrupting
next speaker speak, or we'll just
And
adjourn
so-
to?
And so you need to understand
The
that
next speaker is Jasmine Abdullah, sir. And we do also have a card for Michael Williams.
I'm not going to take it.
He already had it in, sir. Huh? He said to throw it.
But let me say, Matt Johnson, we know who you are, and you can't just sink off into the abyss. We remember your ancestors from that.
Okay. You have to leave. I've asked you to leave the meeting so she can leave. I'm not talking to you. Next speaker, please.
We have Michael Williams.
Speaker. Do you want the next speaker to speak or no? Do you want to continue to interrupt?
Michael Williams.
Was Williams the one?
He had a card in. I just put it in the wrong place.
Okay. Mr. Williams, go ahead, sir.
This is the chicanery that's been going on ever since Matt Johnson got in position. And this is what he's continuing to allow to go on, is the silencing of people. This is his legacy. This is what he's known for, is silencing the people that come here and try to speak about things and issues that affect them directly. And you just kick people out because you don't want to hear what they have to say. And you give them 2 minutes, you don't even allow them to finish their thought because you don't care about what they have to say. This is your legacy, Matt Johnson. I find it funny that Steve Soboroff could answer a question right in the middle of someone speak that wasn't asked, right? Can answer a question that wasn't asked. But every time I come up here and ask you a good question or a question that is asked, you can't comment during public comment. You can't say anything during public comment. I asked Matt Johnson the first time he got onto this commission. I asked him, what, since Ezell Ford has died, has this commission done to make sure less people would actually be killed by the police? And he still hasn't answered that question. He still hasn't answered that question. And since he's been in charge, the averages of people who have been killed by the police have been steady. They have not dropped since you've been been here. And then you went from the president to the vice president because they saw you wasn't making any results. And they wanted Soboroff so he can tell more people to be quiet. That's your legacy. Doing absolutely nothing. That is your legacy. When the time where black people need someone to actually stand up and say something, the time that where black people are being killed the most out here, you did nothing.
Right. That's dysfunctional.
And the averages have continued to stay steady. There's nothing that you did that have curbed that. And I hope you're proud of yourself for that. I hope you're proud that every time you come up here, you either silence someone for speaking out, or you actually just don't do anything. You have no impact.
Yeah.
And that's your legacy.
Okay, there are no other public comment cards, sir. We do have a card on 5A1, 5B, and 5C, and they're all from Mr. Novick.
No. Were they on time?
Yes, sir. For closed session.
Okay. Oh, closed session. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Novak.
Yeah, you have closed session item 5A1 is the officer-involved shooting of Jay Ward. There were 7 officers involved in that, 2 sergeants, 1 police officer, 3 police officers, 2, 1 police officer, 1. So there you have 7 officers involved in shooting somebody. Week after week, you do have between 7 and 16 officers. Again, I think you should tally up how many people are involved, and you'll see that it's a systemic problem. I don't know if Jay Ward was killed, but if they were, then I think that you'll continue to be haunted by Jay Ward and by the family of Jay Ward for a long time. I have a little bit of a sense of what Sheila's going through. My stepson was killed in a motorcycle accident over a decade ago on his father's birthday, and I can tell you that when you lose a child for whatever cause, it's something that impacts the family, an extended family for, the rest of their lives. And, never got to see his own grandson be born. So you need to understand that this is not something that's going away. And if you dismiss the case against the officers involved in the shooting of Jay Ward, you'll have people coming back here next week, the week after that, and the year after that, demanding that you fulfill your responsibility to seriously investigate not just the individual cases, but the systemic roots of police killings in this city. And I don't think you have been doing that, and I doubt that you will do that today, but I'm standing up here to insist and demand that you do fulfill that responsibility, not just to evaluate these particular 7 officers, but to evaluate the entire system and the entire nature of policing this city that results in officer-involved shootings at a level at which, despite the reduction that the chief talked about today, LAPD continues to be one of the most murderous, if not the most murderous department in the country. So those are my comments on closed session item 5A1.
You can go to the next one.
Yeah. 5B1 is an evaluation of the chief of police. I'm not sure why you're evaluating him, but I want to suggest a couple of reasons why you should, and you should find him, despite some of the fine things he has to say, not fulfilling his responsibilities fully. The first relates again to the case of Lakeisha Wilson. He's been challenged here repeatedly to reopen that case, and he has failed to do so as far as I understand it. A lot of information came out subsequent to the finding that you had that Lakeisha Wilson's death was in policy. There was a dismissal of a detention officer. There was a disclosure that there were 22 minutes of withheld video. And so Chief Beck never dealt with that. The police commissioner never dealt with that. The responsibility to deal with it now is on Chief Moore, and he hasn't fulfilled that responsibility. I think that should count against whatever evaluation you're doing. The second issue that's been raised repeatedly is his own ethical violations in resigning as deputy chief in order to get a $1.27 million windfall from the DROP program, and then rehiring immediately thereafter and then becoming chief. I think that should be counted in your evaluation of Chief Moore. I'm sure he's a fine individual, but he set a very poor example for the entire department, which has wasted over $1 billion of taxpayer money on the DROP program, supposedly to retain officers to maintain the size of the force. If crime is dropping, gang crime is dropping, then you should be reducing the size of the force and reducing, if you had 1 million, he said, stops, calls for service and pedestrian and vehicle stops in a city of 4 million in 1 year, then that's a problematic role that the police are playing, and he's not doing his job as chief of police properly. So I think that should count in your evaluation of him, and I think you should evaluate him quite negatively based on those reasons.
Number C.
Okay, 5C1 is the public employee discipline, release, and performance evaluation of the Inspector General. I've been living in Los Angeles since 1982 and following the police department. I think that the Inspector General is derelict in his duty in terms of oversight, going back to things like the Colts Commission report, the Christopher Commission report, and many other reports carried out. There's a need for an Inspector General who will aggressively and affirmatively investigate the policies and procedures and patterns and practices of this department, and the Inspector General has not been doing so adequately because of the record I just referred to, that the LAPD is the most murderous department in the country. And the police commission is not fulfilling its responsibilities oversight. The district attorney has not filed a single criminal case against any police officer who's carried out more than 400 deaths carried out by law enforcement in this county. So therefore it falls on the Inspector General to be the tribune of the people and carry out a serious investigation of the department and its policies that result in those killings, result in those abuses of power, result in the cases of sexual violations of cadets and all the other things that have been talked about over the last several years here. And so the Inspector General is not fulfilling that responsibility of carrying out that role, causing the kind of mistrust that you find, not just because of the actions of the department, but because of the actions of the police commission, of the Inspector General, of the police chief, of the civilian people that appointed all of you, of the mayor's office. So I think that you should evaluate the Inspector General negatively in this public and employee discipline and evaluation process, and either demand that he carry out that responsibility to really thoroughly look at the patterns and practices, or he leave the job and find somebody else who can do it better.
There are no other comment cards, sir. The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item numbers 5A1, 5B, and 5C in accordance with Government Code 54957.
Okay, thank you.
The Board of Police Commissioners has concluded its work in closed session. We are back in open session. In closed session, item number 5A1 was discussed and the chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session, item number 5B was discussed and item number 5C was discussed. Mr. Vice President, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn, and we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Right.
Oh.
Not the gavel. I am adjourned.
I'm Angelina.
I'm Mike. And I'm Councilmember Curran Price, and we're proud to represent Los Angeles in the new night.
You're watching LA City View 35.
Your city, your channel.
We've never had a traffic accident like this before, where a teenager has decided to run from the police and been struck by a motor vehicle.